When I say addiction, it's like truly addiction. Like you feel like you can't go without it, but you don't want to have it. By the age of 18, I had completely left the church. Hello, everyone. My name's Kristen Moser. I'm 20 years old and I was born and raised in Union County, North Carolina. I feel like my story starts off just like anybody that has grown up in church. I was born and raised in a Christian home. I was in church my entire life, and my parents were in leadership, so I was probably inside the church more than your average kid was. I was in every kids program you can think of, every kids play you can think of. If you ask me about any Bible story, I could tell you about it front to back, and I could probably tell you some good historical facts as well, since my mom was a Sunday school teacher and she would share her notes with us. And so, from the outside looking in, this all looks really, really good. But as a kid, I didn't have a foundational relationship with the Lord. I had a salvation experience at the age of 3 that I really believe was real. And I had a relationship with the Lord, but it was very, very surface. I believed as a child that as long as I was going to church and doing the best that I could, that I was close to the Lord, but I really was not. And so I feel like it made it easier for me to fall into temptation into my teenage years. At the age of 12, I remember being a part of a particular friend group. One thing that you should know about me at that time is I struggled a lot with people pleasing. And so I would do anything just to fit in. Like I wanted everyone to like me. And so I would kind of fit the mold of whatever group I wanted to be in at that time. And so I was in this particular group of girls, and while our parents were in leadership meetings at the church, we would hang out together and talk about boys and different things like that. And what it eventually led to was one of the girls sharing these messages of things that she would send other guys and other guys would send to her, and she would share the messages with us, and they were explicit messages. And so at the age of 12, it's like I don't really know what that is. I kind of do, but I kind of don't. And I know that I probably shouldn't be like looking at it, but I didn't want to tell her no because I still wanted her to like me. And at the same time, I was just curious about it. Like, okay, what is that? And so it eventually led to me being addicted to pornography and masturbation at the age of 13. You can imagine how hard that was, how conflicting that was as a 13-year-old whose family is very heavily involved in the church. And leaders had kind of hinted around that, like, pornography is something that you don't go that route. You don't do that. You just stay away from it. But there was nothing past that. And so here I am at the point where I'm in it now, and I'm stuck because I'm so ashamed of myself that like I hate myself for what I'm doing, but I don't know how to get free from it, and who can I tell about it? And so it was just this cycle of me just getting worse and worse. I saw my personality start to shift. It was like this dark cloud that was just over me. And so that continued on for a while. And I remember how hard it was. Like when I say addiction, it's like truly addiction. Like you feel like you can't go without it, but you don't want to have it. And so I remember pleading with the Lord, like, please take this away from me. And then at the same time, trying to shame myself out of it. Like, I can't believe you. Why would you do this? What if somebody found out about this? What would they think about you? And it seemed like for a while, nothing was working. And so I believe that process went on for about 6 months. And then one night in a dream, the Lord woke me up and delivered me completely from the desire to watch pornography. And shortly after that, delivered me completely from masturbation. And so you hear that and it's like, oh yes, she got it. There's her come to Jesus moment. Like, she's good. And I would like to tell you that everything was good after that, but it really wasn't. That's really where religion started to take a toll on me, because I just learned how to follow the rules a little bit better. I didn't follow my relationship, I didn't dive in deep with the Lord. And so I was still just kind of trapped in this, okay, well, let me just go to church and do the best I can type thing. Um, the ages of 14 to 18 were very hard transitional times of my life, where literally the foundation of everything that I stood on crumbled in front of me. Right before my 16th birthday, my parents divorced very tragically. And at the point, I didn't know if I would have a relationship with my dad or ever talk to him again. So that happened. I still don't have a relationship with the Lord. And because that piece is missing, I'm looking for something to fill the gap in every other place, which was usually in relationships. Like, I sought love that I didn't get from my earthly dad, and what I didn't try to get from my heavenly father. And so I just sought it in people. And so I was in a few relationships that just ended really poorly for me. And it left me heartbroken and just feeling torn apart. My mom, because my parents separated, my dad was the breadwinner, so to say, of the family. And so my mom had to go through schooling to go back to work, which means me and my siblings kind of had to fend for ourselves. She didn't have the money to pay for most anything for us except for food. And that was because we had financial help from the government. And I'd worked so that I had a little bit of money. But I remember a time where I only had $5 to put gas in my car just to get to work. And I didn't know how I was going to make past that. My parents, my dad found somebody new. My mom eventually found somebody new, and that was hard for me to navigate. And then all while this is happening, in the span of just a few years, the leadership that was in church and in our youth group stepped down. And so it's like everywhere that I had a outsource, like a place to go to in my life, I feel like I didn't have it anymore. It like crumbled right in front of me. And so I was stuck kind of just searching, like, okay, can this really be it? Like, it was probably one of the most depressive times of my life. I didn't have what seemed like anybody to go to. I had some really close family friends that got me through like the hardest part of it, and I'm so thankful for that. Outside of that, though, it's like I just don't have anybody. And so by the age of 18, I had completely left the church. I wasn't getting what I felt like I needed. I was empty at a point in my life where I was like, okay, I need to be filled up, and I wasn't being filled. And so I left the church that I was at to go look for other places, because I'm thinking to myself, like, this can't be it, right? Like, this can't be my reality. Like, this can't be it. And so I went and looked different places, and after a little while I gave up on that too, because it was like the same story but in a different building. Everywhere I went, I couldn't find it. And so I at one point was not going to church altogether. And I was still trying to chase the Lord. I was still trying to seek him, because I knew that he was what I needed at that time, but I didn't know where to find him. And so I was just working, hanging out with my close family friends and what family I had left at that point, and just doing my own thing. And so about that time, my brother came home from church one day. He had still been attending where I had left from. And he was like, Kristen, you're not going to believe this. You got to come back with me. I mean, there's this new leader there. He's so different than anything that we've ever seen before. You're going to love him. And so I'm like, okay, well, this can't be worse than anything else that I've experienced in the past however long. And so I was like, okay, I'll go with you. And so the following Wednesday night, I showed up back to my old church with this new leader, and I walk in the doors, and there stands Apostle Brian and Meredith. And I remember everything about that service. I remember what I was wearing. I remember what they were wearing, because it was such a, like, it was like time stood still, and it was like, okay, this is different. What is so different about this guy? And if you've been following this journey at all, you can kind of tell that the rest is history. But even then, like, looking back now, I see that point as such a pivotal point, because that was the beginning to this whole change. If you've seen anybody else's testimony through this series, you have probably heard about the trip to Panama City, where literally the kingdom of heaven fell down, the Spirit of the Lord manifested, and demons were cast out of almost every single youth that was there. We had this amazing time just with ourselves. And I remember the part that really sealed the deal for me was it was about halfway through the week. We had spent, like I said, we had spent this whole beginning of the week confessing our deepest sins to each other. We had been praying and holding each other up and doing deliverance on each other. Like, this was brand new to everybody, brand new territory, but it was genuine, it was real, and it was authentic, and we wanted nothing but that. Like, we didn't leave that building probably for, I mean, just to sleep. Like, we were in there worshiping all the time. And there was one particular night where we're all standing in a circle, and no really like heavy warfare had been going on that day. Like, we were praising, we were having like the best time, and dancing and singing, jumping up and down. And I'll never forget, it was almost like a scene of a movie where like everything kind of paused for a second. And there was one kid that earlier in the week, he shared that he had struggled like all his life with this demon that tormented him, that like told him lies about other people, and like kind of threatened him with fear, like bad things are going to happen if you don't do this, like that kind of thing. And he, at this point in the week, hadn't found his freedom yet. Like, we had been digging, we had been praying, and like really just pushing hard against the enemy. And I remember he stepped right into the middle of the circle during worship, and time stood still. And without anybody laying hands on him or praying a deliverance prayer, he walked in the middle while we were praising the Lord's name, and he said, "It's gone." It left. And better than any football touchdown celebration, any party that I've ever been to, I watched 40 kids rally around him, pick him up, spin him around, and we just all praised God even more. And that was the moment where I was like, this is it. This is everything that I've been looking for such a long time. This is everything that I've been missing. And at that point, I was like, we got it. We got it. And that was just the beginning. We've been on this journey for over 2 years now, and we've seen countless people get freedom. I have gotten freedom. I've been delivered of demons that have tormented me my entire life without me knowing about it. I thought I was just messed up. And so here I am, standing before you, telling you there's more. There's so much more. And you just got to look for it. Religion wanted me to stay stuck. If there's anything that the enemy is after, it's after the church and after your children. He wanted to turn me away from the church, and he wanted to get me so stuck in sin that I couldn't stand myself. And so if he could do that to me, he could do that to anybody if you let him. And so I'm telling you, this is why I hate the spirit of religion. And this is why what we're talking about is so important. This is why I'm a walking testimony because what I came from is what everybody can come from. What I was delivered from is what you can be delivered from, and it doesn't have to end there. You don't have to live in your shame. Your kids don't have to walk in the shame of from things that they have done or things that you have done. You can be set completely free, because I was. The Lord loves you. He wants freedom for you. And the number one thing that religion hates is freedom, because it has no structure and it knows no bounds. Because what can you do to a person that's free? What can you do to me? I'm free. My name's Kristen Moser, and I'm a recovering Baptist.